former Senator Rick Santorum.
Would you support some form of a federal right-to-work law allowing all workers to choose whether or not to join a union?
That's for you, Senator Santorum.
I think the most important area that we have to focus in on when it comes to unions is public employee unions. That's the area of unionization that's growing the fastest, and it's costing us the most money. We've seen these battles on the state level where unions have really bankrupted states, from pension plans to here in the federal level, for example, 30 to 40% union employees make above their private sector equivalents. I do not believe that state, federal, or local workers, unions, should be involved in unions. And I would actually support a bill that says that we should not have public employee unions for the purposes of wages and benefits to be negotiated.
I've taught in both public and private schools, and now as a substitute teacher. I see administrators more focused on satisfying federal mandates, retaining funding, and trying not to get sued, while the teachers are jumping through hoops, trying to serve up a one-size-fits-all education for their students. What, as president, would you seriously do about what I consider a massive overreach of big government into the classroom?
Senator Santorum.
Yeah, 20 years ago, the federal contribution to education was 3%. It's now 11%, and our schools are doing worse. And it's exactly what Gary Johnson just said. It's because the federal governments are meddling. The bottom line problem with education is that the education system doesn't serve the customer of the education system. And who's the customer? The parents. Because it's the parents' responsibility to educate the children. It's been that responsibility from the moment they were born. They began the education of their children. At some point, the government has convinced parents that at some point it's no longer their responsibility. In fact, they force them, in many respects, to turn their children over to the public education system and wrest control from them and block them out of the participation of that. That has to change, or education will not improve in this country.
You say that Governor Perry's opposition to building a border along the entire fence shows that he is, quote, a big government moderate. Question: is he soft on illegal immigration?
Governor Perry, no one's suggesting up here that the students that are illegal in this country shouldn't be able to go to a college and university. I mean, I think you're sort of making this leap that unless we subsidize this, the taxpayers subsidize it, they won't be able to go. Well, most folks who want to go to the state of Texas or any other state, out of state, have to pay the full boat. The point is, why are we subsidized? Not that they can't go, they can go. They just have to borrow money, find other sources to be able to go. And why should they be given preferential treatment as an illegal in this country? That's what we're saying. And so yes, I would say that he is soft on illegal immigration. I think the fact that he doesn't want to build a fence. He gave a speech in 2001 where he talked about binational health insurance between Mexico and Texas. I mean, I don't even think Barack Obama would be for binational health insurance. So I think he's very weak on this issue of American sovereignty and protecting our borders and not being a magnet for illegal immigration. Yes.
Senator Santorum, if the security situation were to fall apart in Iraq in 2012, would you support sending U.S. troops back to the region to stabilize the gains made?
I'm not for taking them out of the region. I believe that we need to listen to our generals, and our generals are very, very clear that we need to continue to stabilize the Iraqi government wants and needs our intelligence, in particular, needs force protection. We need to have anywhere, I'm hearing numbers of 20, 30,000 troops potentially to remain in Iraq, not indefinitely, but to continue to make sure that this is a stable transition. This is the difference between Congressman Paul, Governor Huntsman, Governor Perry, and myself when it comes to this issue. I stand up and say that when we engage in Iraq and Afghanistan, we engage because we want to be successful. We want victory. We want to have accomplished a national security objective for this country, to make sure that we are safer. We're not on a political agenda to withdraw troops. So the first thing is to make sure that we secure success. To answer the question on Pakistan, which I'm not too sure was answered, the bottom line is that we should be establishing relationships in Pakistan with allies of ours, folks like relationships with President Musharraf, who we had in the past, with others in that country. So if in fact something like that would occur, we could work in concert to make sure that coup could be overturned and make sure that those nuclear weapons do not fall into those hands. But working with allies at that point is the last thing we want to do. We want to work in that country to make sure that the problem is diffused.
Very quickly.
Just because our economy is sick does not mean our country is sick, and doesn't mean our values are sick. And we're going to stand up for those values every opportunity to do so to make sure that our country is safe. The bottom line is that you just mentioned is we should be fighting wars to win, not fighting wars for politics. And this president is fighting a war in Afghanistan with one hand tied behind our generals, not giving the troops they need, not giving the authority, the rules of engagement to allow us to be successful. And unless we change those rules of engagement and make sure that our folks can win, then we are going to play politics with our military.
In 2010, when I was deployed to Iraq, I had to lie about who I was because I'm a gay soldier, and I didn't want to lose my job. My question is, under one of your presidencies, do you intend to circumvent the progress that's been made for gay and lesbian soldiers in the military?
Yeah, I would say any type of sexual activity has absolutely no place in the military, and the fact that they're making a point to include it as a provision within the military that we are going to recognize a group of people and give them a special privilege in DONA and removing DONA as don't tell, I think tries to inject social policy into the military, and the military's job is to do one thing, and that is to defend our country. We need to give the military, which is all volunteer, the ability to do so in a way that is most efficient in protecting our men and women in uniform, and I believe this undermines that ability.
So what would you do with soldiers like Stephen Hill? I mean, he's out. You saw his face on camera. When he first submitted this video to us, it was without his face on camera. Now he's out. So what would you do as president?
I think look, what we're doing is playing social experimentation with our military right now, and that's tragic. I would just say that going forward, we would reinstitute that policy if Rick Santorum was president, period. That policy would be reinstituted, and as far as people who are in it, I would not throw them out because that would be unfair to them because of the policy of this administration, but we would move forward in conformity with what was happening in the past, which was sex is not an issue. It should not be an issue. Leave it alone. Keep it to yourself, whether you're heterosexual or homosexual.
What I'm asking for is, how are you going to turn this country around? We'll go down the row, 30 seconds each.
The last words Ronald Reagan said as President of the United States in his farewell address, he was concerned about the future of our country because we were forgetting who we were, didn't remember what Americans was really all about. I think that's what's the problem right now, is we have a president who doesn't understand what America is all about. America is a great country because we are a country that believes in God-given rights to every single man, woman, and child in America, and that we built this country from the bottom up, believing in free people to have that responsibility to live their lives in service to themselves, their family, their community, and their God. And in so doing, we transformed the world. We had a leader in Reagan who believed in you. President Obama is the new King George III, who believes in things being dictated from on high. We need to replace him to someone who believes in the American people again.
Again, if you had to choose a running mate, one of the people on the stage with you, who would you choose and why? 30 seconds down the row. Senator Santorum, who would you choose?
I would pick someone who would do what I have articulated I would do as President of the United States. That's what a vice president should be, someone who would follow through on what you promised the American public to do.
You have 8 to choose.
And I would say that, right now that, the guy that I'm agreeing with most up on stage is probably the guy to my left. So I would say that Newt Gingrich would be the guy that I would pick as someone who would follow through with what I'm saying.
Speaker Gingrich.